Okay, wow. You send over a really interesting mix of Harvard Business Review articles this time.
Yeah.
Everything from managing in a downturn to the rise of live stream commerce, and even
Ah.
whether your company needs a space strategy.
Yeah, it's
It's quite the spread.
it is. It's fascinating to see so many different topics, but I think there's definitely a theme running through them all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. It seems like you're really trying to get a handle on like the big shifts happening in business right now.
Absolutely. And I think the best place to start might be with something that's top of mind for a lot of leaders these days,
Okay.
the changing role of managers.
Yeah, you're reading my mind that managers can't do it all
Right.
article.
Yeah.
Really hit home for me.
Uh-huh.
It feels like the expectations for managers have just exploded in recent years.
It's not just a feeling. The article highlights this fundamental shift in what it means to be a manager these days
Yeah.
and breaks it down into three key dimensions: power, skills, and structure.
Okay, let's unpack those. Starting with power. The article talks about managers needing to empower their teams,
Right.
not be served by them,
Uh-huh.
which is a pretty big departure from the traditional command and control style.
Right. Think of it as a move away from that hierarchical model to a more collaborative one.
Okay.
It's not just about giving up control, though. It's
Yeah.
about understanding the different ways that power operates within an organization.
Interesting. So how does this idea of empowering teams actually play out in practice?
Well, the article uses the example of Standard Chartered Bank.
Okay.
They faced a challenge that I think is familiar to a lot of large organizations:
Yeah.
how to develop coaching skills in their managers, but at scale.
So instead of just like sending managers to a one-off training session,
Yeah.
they created a whole coaching culture.
Exactly. Their coaching program was so successful that it was constantly oversubscribed.
Wow.
And what's interesting here is that they recognize that true empowerment involves investing in the development of your people.
That makes sense. You can't really expect managers to empower their teams if they don't feel empowered themselves.
That's a great point, and it brings us to the next dimension of change: skills.
Okay.
It's no longer enough for managers to simply oversee tasks and delegate work.
Now they need to be coaches, mentors, masters of communication,
Right.
especially with the rise of remote and hybrid work.
Absolutely. The article highlights IBM as a company that's doing this really well.
Okay.
They've been digitizing a lot of those administrative tasks to free up managers
Okay.
to focus on more strategic and people-focused work.
So they're using technology to actually give managers more time to manage their people.
Exactly. And it's not just about freeing up time,
Right.
it's also about making sure that managers have the right tools and training to be effective in this new landscape.
Yeah, that's a great example of how companies can be proactive in supporting their managers through this transition.
Uh-huh.
But what about structure?
Oh,
How has that been impacted?
well, think about all the changes that we've already discussed, like the shift in power dynamics,
Right.
the new skills required.
Yeah.
These changes are forcing companies to rethink how they structure their teams and their leadership roles.
And the article highlights Telstra, the Australian telecommunications company,
Uh-huh.
as a particularly interesting case study.
Right. They took a really bold step and completely restructured their management roles,
Okay.
separating leaders of people from leaders of work.
So they literally split the traditional manager role in two.
It's a radical experiment, and it's definitely generating a lot of buzz within the company.
I bet.
What's fascinating is that they're acknowledging that the traditional manager role might not be fit for purpose
Yeah.
in this new world of work.
And it makes you wonder if more companies will follow suit. But stepping back, it seems like all of these changes,
Yeah.
power, skills, structure,
Uh-huh.
are all pointing to a fundamental shift in how we think about the manager's role.
And I think the underlying theme here is adaptability. The companies that are succeeding in this environment are the ones that are willing to challenge those traditional models and
Right.
embrace new ways of working.
And the companies that are investing in their people.
Exactly, whether it's through training restructuring or just creating that culture of support, it's clear that investing in managers is essential for success.
Yeah, but what happens when things go wrong? Like when managers become the source of stress and frustration instead of a source of support.
Exactly. Think back to that statistic from McKinsey. 75% of employees said their immediate boss was the most stressful part of their job.
Oh, gosh.
It just highlights how damaging bad management can be, both for individuals and for organizations.
It's a stark reminder of why getting this right is so crucial.
Uh-huh.
And it kind of leads us perfectly into the next challenge, managing in the age of outrage.
Yeah, it's a phenomenon that's impacting leaders at every level.
Right.
Whether they're running a Fortune 500 company or a local school board.
It's almost like everyone's on edge these days.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much to spark a firestorm of
Right.
anger and criticism.
Okay.
That Managing in the Age of Outrage article had some pretty helpful advice on this front.
Absolutely. It provides this practical 5-step framework for navigating these situations,
Okay.
starting with creating a safe space for dialogue.
Which I imagine is a lot harder than it sounds.
It definitely takes skill and intentionality.
Yeah,
It's not about agreeing with every viewpoint,
right.
but it's about fostering an environment where stakeholders feel heard,
Yeah.
even if their perspectives differ dramatically.
So setting ground rules, active listening, all of that good stuff.
Exactly. But creating that space is just the first step.
Okay.
Next, you need to analyze the outrage.
Oh.
Really dig deep and understand the root causes and drivers of the anger.
Because sometimes it's not just about the issue at hand. It's about like deeper feelings of frustration, injustice, or even fear.
Exactly. The article uses the example of the London Metropolitan Police, facing a lot of backlash over racial disparities and stop-and-search practices during the pandemic.
Wow.
And it really highlights the importance of understanding the historical context and lived experiences
Yeah.
that contribute to these moments of outrage.
It's a reminder that we need to listen carefully and try to see the situation from multiple perspectives.
Absolutely.
But once you've kind of analyzed the situation,
Yeah.
what comes next?
That's step 3. Determining your response.
Okay.
Will you engage directly, delegate the issue, or even defer action altogether?
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all answer, and it really depends on the specific situation.
And probably on the type of power that you have as a leader.
You're absolutely right, and that's where step 4 comes in, mobilizing others.
Okay.
The article encourages leaders to map their power both spatially and temporally,
Okay.
to understand where their influence comes from and how it might evolve over time.
So it's about understanding your strengths,
Yeah.
but also your limitations.
Exactly. And finally, step 5 is all about communication.
Okay.
It may seem obvious, but effective communication is absolutely crucial in these situations.
But what does effective communication actually look like
Yeah.
when you're dealing with angry stakeholders?
The article emphasizes the importance of honesty, transparency, and authenticity.
Right.
People can spot a canned response or a disingenuous apology a mile away.
So no corporate jargon or PR spin.
Exactly. The article highlights how Oxford University hospitals navigated this really delicate situation
Okay.
involving surgeon resistance during the pandemic
Wow.
by carefully considering their communication strategy and empowering trusted individuals to speak to their colleagues.
Yeah.
They were able to address concerns and maintain those critical operations.
That's a great example of how clear and empathetic communication can really make a difference.
Absolutely.
So we've tackled the evolving role of managers
Yeah.
and how to navigate outrage.
Uh-huh.
2 pretty big topics.
We've only just scratched the surface. But what do you think connects these two seemingly disparate topics?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, they both require a deep understanding of human behavior, don't they?
I think you're onto something there.
Okay.
But what about the internal workings of a company?
Okay.
Have those changed as well?
That's another great question. And it seems like you're hinting at something.
Yeah.
That's top of mind for a lot of companies these days.
Uh-huh.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI.
You read my mind again.
You're good.
That diversity fatigue is real.
Yeah.
Here's how to beat it. Article.
Yeah.
Really resonated with me. It acknowledges that a lot of companies get stuck in these performative DEI efforts.
Uh-huh.
You know, ticking boxes without making any real progress.
I've definitely seen that happen.
Yeah.
It's like they're going through the motions,
Right.
but not really committed to creating meaningful change.
Exactly. And the article provides this really helpful framework
Okay.
for understanding where companies fall on the spectrum of DEI maturity. They outline 5 stages, starting with aware.
So aware is like the first step on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
You recognize that DEI is important,
Yeah,
but you're not quite sure what to do about it yet.
exactly. And then there's compliant.
Okay.
Their companies are really focused on meeting those legal requirements and basic standards.
Which is important, but it's really just the bare minimum, isn't it?
Right. It's about checking the boxes
Yeah.
rather than embracing DEI as a core value.
And that's what separates compliant from tactical.
Yeah.
At this stage, companies are starting to implement initiatives like employee resource groups or diversity training programs.
Right. But it's often happening in this piecemeal fashion
Yeah.
without a cohesive company-wide strategy.
The article uses the example of Nike,
Uh-huh.
which has struggled with DEI despite its very diverse marketing campaigns.
Yeah, it's a reminder that representation in advertising doesn't necessarily translate to a truly inclusive workplace.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the integrated stage,
Yeah.
where companies start to connect their internal and external DEI efforts.
Uh-huh.
So they're weaving DEI into the fabric of their culture and operations,
Right.
not just treating it as a separate initiative.
Exactly.
And finally, we have the sustainable stage.
Yes.
This is where companies are truly living and breathing DEI.
It's about continuous improvement and commitment to DEI even after achieving those initial goals.
Okay.
Intel is highlighted in the article as a company that's been on this journey for a while now,
Okay.
constantly setting and evolving their DEI goals.
What stands out to me from all of this is that real change requires addressing systemic inequities.
Okay.
And that takes sustained effort and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about creating a culture where everyone feels valued, respected, and empowered to succeed.
Yeah, and it makes me think about another area where companies are being challenged to move beyond those surface-level commitments.
Okay.
ESG.
You're so right. It's easy to make pledges and set targets. But that essential link between ESG targets and financial performance article argues that companies need to go deeper.
Yeah.
They need to integrate ESG into their business models and connect it to their financial performance.
Otherwise, it becomes just another box to check.
Right. The article suggests 5 key actions that companies can take to really move the needle on ESG.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So first, identify material ESG issues.
Okay.
This means understanding what matters most to your industry and to your stakeholders.
Okay, so for a clothing company, it might be labor practices and sustainable sourcing.
Uh-huh.
Well, for an energy company, it could be about reducing carbon emissions.
It makes sense that different industries will have different priorities.
Right, but how do you move beyond just identifying those issues?
That's the second action. Factoring ESG into all decision-making.
Okay.
It's about thinking beyond profits and considering the social and environmental impact of your choices.
So instead of just asking what's the cheapest option,
Yeah.
you're asking what's the most sustainable option.
Right.
Or what's the option that will have the most positive impact on our community?
Exactly. And the third action is all about collaboration.
Okay.
Engaging with your stakeholders.
So this includes employees, customers, suppliers,
Yeah.
community members.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about what happens inside the company.
Uh-huh.
It's about your impact on the wider world.
Precisely. Building those partnerships can lead to more innovative solutions
Right?
and ensure that your ESG efforts are truly addressing the needs of those affected.
It's a reminder that ESG isn't just about risk mitigation
Right.
or compliance.
Uh-huh.
It's about creating a better future for everyone.
Absolutely. Now, the fourth action focuses on empowering employees
Okay.
by redesigning organizational roles.
So making sure that ESG isn't just the responsibility of like a small team,
Right.
but something that's embedded throughout the company.
Exactly. This could involve creating dedicated sustainability teams
Yeah.
or integrating ESG responsibilities into existing roles.
So everyone has a role to play in driving that positive change.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, the fifth action is about communicating with investors.
Good.
Be transparent about your ESG progress
Yeah.
and how it's impacting your bottom line.
It makes sense. Investors are increasingly looking for companies that are not only profitable,
Yeah.
but also purpose-driven.
Right. And this requires clear metrics and a willingness to share both your successes and challenges.
The article highlights companies like Nestle, Enel, and Boclock have examples of businesses that are doing this well.
Uh-huh.
They're not just meeting their ESG targets,
Yeah.
but actually using them as a springboard for innovation and growth.
Absolutely. And that's something to keep in mind as we move into the next area of discussion,
Okay.
a topic that's generating a lot of hype,
Uh-huh.
but also a fair amount of skepticism, Web3.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a polarizing topic.
Yeah.
You sent over 2 fascinating articles on this, The Metaverse Explained and Cautionary Tales from Cryptoland.
I did. It seems like you're trying to figure out if Web3 is a revolutionary technology or just another overhyped trend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be helpful to start with the basics.
Okay.
What exactly is Web3?
Good point. A lot of people get confused about this. So think of it this way. Web 1 was the static, read-only web of the early internet.
Okay.
Then came Web 2.
Okay.
The interactive read-write web dominated by social media and user-generated content.
Okay, so that's where we are now,
Uh-huh.
Web 2.
Right.
But what makes Web 3 different?
Web3 promises a decentralized, user-owned internet
Okay.
where blockchain technology empowers individuals and communities.
So instead of having our data controlled by a few giant companies,
Yeah,
it's distributed across a network.
that's the idea. And it has the potential to revolutionize everything from finance to art to gaming.
The Metaverse Explained article paints a pretty compelling picture of this future.
It does. Think about it. Cryptocurrencies that allow for peer-to-peer transactions,
Huh?
NFTs that give creators more control over their work, and the metaverse,
Yeah.
which is still in its early stages,
Right.
but has the potential to be a truly immersive and interactive online experience.
But then you have articles like Cautionary Tales from Cryptoland,
Yeah.
which present a much more skeptical view.
And rightfully so.
Mm.
There are some serious concerns about Web3 that we need to address.
What are some of the biggest red flags?
Well, the environmental impact is a major one.
Okay.
Blockchain technology requires a lot of energy,
Uh-huh.
which contributes to climate change.
That's a valid point, especially as sustainability becomes more and more important to consumers and investors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the issue of financial speculation and fraud.
Okay.
The crypto market is incredibly volatile
Right.
and rife with scams putting everyday users at risk.
So while there's potential for innovation and disruption,
Yeah,
there's also a lot of potential for harm.
absolutely. And we can't forget about privacy and harassment concerns.
Right.
The anonymity of blockchain can enable malicious behavior and make it really difficult to address those issues.
It sounds like the Wild West of the internet all over again.
Yeah.
So where does this leave us?
Okay.
What does it all mean for businesses?
That's the million-dollar question. The reality is that Web3 is still very much in its infancy.
Okay.
There are a lot of unknowns, and it's impossible to say for certain what the future holds.
But I'm sensing that you're not advising companies to just ignore it.
Definitely not. I think the key is to approach Web3 with a healthy dose of skepticism,
Yeah.
but also a willingness to experiment and learn.
So keep an eye on it, explore the possibilities,
Mm,
but don't go all in just yet.
exactly. And speaking of exploring possibilities,
Okay.
let's shift gears and talk about another emerging trend,
Okay.
live stream commerce.
You're right. The selling on TikTok and Taobao article was really eye-opening.
Yeah,
It seems like live stream commerce is already huge in China
it is.
and gaining traction here in the U.S.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a modern-day version of QVC where influencers are demonstrating products in real time. And viewers can buy them instantly without even leaving the stream.
It's like the perfect marriage of entertainment and shopping.
Right.
But why are businesses embracing it so enthusiastically?
Well, for starters, it's incredibly effective at generating immediate sales.
Okay.
It creates this sense of urgency and excitement that can really lead to those impulse purchases.
I can see that. It's like being at a live auction where you get caught up in the moment.
Exactly. And live stream commerce is also a great way to reach new consumer segments,
Okay.
especially Gen Z and younger millennials who are digital natives and very comfortable with this type of format.
It's like a whole new way of connecting with consumers and
Ooh.
building brand loyalty.
Right. And it's not just about selling products. It's
Mhm.
also about educating consumers.
Okay.
Live streams allow brands to do product demonstrations, answer questions in real time,
Yeah.
and even get feedback from viewers.
So it's a two-way conversation,
Yeah.
not just a one-way sales pitch.
That's what makes it so powerful. The article even provides some guidance on how companies can successfully leverage this trend,
Okay.
from choosing the right platform
Uh-huh.
to selecting effective influencers to measuring their results.
It's like a playbook for success in the world of live stream commerce.
Right. It really is a comprehensive guide to navigating this exciting new landscape.
And speaking of exciting new landscapes,
Yeah?
the final article in our stack
Okay.
takes us to a whole other frontier space.
Mhm. The article, Your Company Needs a Space Strategy Now, makes a pretty bold claim that space is no longer just for governments and billionaires.
Okay.
It's becoming a viable source of value for businesses across various industries.
Well, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Are we really talking about sending businesses to space?
Not necessarily sending businesses to space themselves,
Okay.
but utilizing the resources and opportunities that space presents.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
But how can my company create value from space if we're not planning to launch rockets?
That's a great question. And the article outlines 4 key ways to unlock value from space:
Okay.
data capabilities, resources, and markets.
So data would be like using satellites to gather information.
Exactly. Satellites provide real-time information on everything from weather patterns to crop yields to methane leaks.
Wow.
And companies like Swiss Re are using this data to make more informed decisions and better assess risk.
It's amazing to think about the possibilities.
Hmm.
But what about capabilities?
Okay.
What does that refer to?
The unique environment of space allows for this cutting-edge research and development
Okay.
in areas like pharmaceuticals and materials science.
Oh,
Companies are actually sending experiments to space
seriously?
to leverage those unique conditions of microgravity and vacuum.
So like sending lab equipment to the International Space Station.
Exactly. Bristol-Myers Squibb and Merck are just two examples of companies doing that.
Wow.
And then, of course, there's a potential for extracting resources from space,
Okay.
like minerals from asteroids.
I'm talking about space mining.
It's not science fiction anymore.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
It's becoming a reality.
And what about markets?
Okay.
How does that fit into the space economy?
Think about space tourism, which is on the rise, and all the emerging industries around space exploration and development. We could be seeing space hotels, lunar mining operations,
Wow.
even Martian colonies in our lifetime.
Wow, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So should my company be investing in a space startup right now?
Hold your horses.
Okay.
The article advocates for a more measured approach.
Right.
Start with partnerships,
Uh-huh.
make strategic investments, and cultivate a fail-fast mentality.
Fail fast. What do you mean by that?
It's a common approach in the tech sector,
Okay.
where experimentation and rapid iteration are essential for innovation.
Right.
It's about embracing failure as a learning opportunity,
Okay.
rather than trying to eliminate all risk.
So it's about being bold, but also calculated
Yeah,
in your approach to space.
precisely. And that same mindset of adaptability, innovation, and embracing new ways of working.
Is crucial for success in any industry.
Right.
Whether you're exploring the metaverse or venturing into the final frontier.
You've given me a lot to think about.
Good.
But all of these advancements,
Yeah.
whether it's AI or space exploration, raise some important questions about leadership and the skills needed to thrive in this rapidly changing world.
You're right. And that brings us to the final article in our stack. The new CEO, Chief Empathy Officer.
Ooh, the title alone is intriguing. What's this article all about?
It highlights a surprising trend. Social skills are becoming just as important as technical expertise for top executives.
Really? So it's not enough to just be like a brilliant strategist
Yeah,
or
right.
financial whiz anymore?
Not in today's world. Leaders are facing unprecedented challenges,
Right.
from managing remote teams to navigating these complex social and political
That's
landscapes.
a lot to handle.
And these challenges require a different set of skills,
Yep.
the skills that have traditionally been undervalued, especially in the C-suite. So we're talking about things like empathy, emotional intelligence, the ability to build strong relationships.
Exactly. And the article breaks down why these skills are so crucial,
Okay.
starting with the sheer size and complexity of modern organizations.
Yeah, I can imagine that leading a global company with thousands of employees requires a different skill set than running a small business.
You're absolutely right. Leading effectively at that scale requires strong communication collaboration and the ability to inspire and motivate people from diverse backgrounds and cultures.
It's no longer enough to just like issue orders from the top. Leaders need to be able to connect with their employees on a human level.
And that's where empathy and emotional intelligence come in.
Right.
And this need for human-centered leadership is only going to increase
Yeah.
as technology continues to advance.
So as AI and automation take over more of those routine tasks,
Right.
the skills that will set humans apart are our ability to connect,
Yeah.
collaborate,
Uh-huh.
and create meaningful relationships.
Precisely. It's about understanding and responding to the needs of your employees, your customers, your stakeholders.
Yeah. And let's not forget about the impact of social media and the 24/7 news cycle.
You're right. Leaders are under constant scrutiny these days. One wrong move or one insensitive comment can go viral
Oh, yeah.
and damage a company's reputation.
Yeah, it's like leaders are under a microscope
Yeah,
these days.
they are.
They need to be incredibly mindful of how their words and actions are perceived.
Exactly. And that's why emotional intelligence is so crucial.
Okay.
It's the ability to be aware of and manage your own emotions,
Yeah.
but also the emotions of others.
It sounds like emotional intelligence is like the foundation for effective leadership in this new world of work.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
It's about being self-aware, empathetic, and skilled at building relationships and navigating those complex social dynamics.
But the article also raises a really important question. How do you measure empathy and emotional intelligence? It's not like you can just give someone a test and say, you scored a 9 out of 10 on empathy.
Right. It's
Yeah.
much more nuanced than that.
Right.
It requires looking at a leader's behavior,
Uh-huh.
their communication style, their decision-making process,
Yeah.
and their track record of building trust and rapport with others.
Yeah, I'm curious to know how companies are approaching this challenge.
Okay.
Are they using personality assessments,
Yeah.
behavioral interviews,
Yeah.
or are they still relying on gut instinct?
It's likely a combination of approaches. Some companies are using 360-degree feedback,
Okay.
where leaders receive input from their peers, their direct reports,
Hmm.
and even clients or customers
Right.
to get a more holistic view of their strengths and weaknesses.
So it's about gathering data from multiple sources
Uh-huh.
to get a more well-rounded picture of a leader's emotional intelligence.
Exactly. And other companies are incorporating simulations and role-playing exercises into their leadership development programs
Okay.
to give aspiring leaders a chance to practice these skills.
In a safe environment.
It sounds like companies are getting a lot more sophisticated in how they develop and assess leadership potential.
They have to. The old command and control style of leadership simply isn't effective in today's complex and rapidly changing world.
Leaders need a different set of skills.
Yeah.
Skills that allow them to connect with their teams,
Uh-huh.
build trust,
Right.
and inspire others to achieve those shared goals.
Exactly. And this brings us to another often overlooked aspect of leadership, managing age diversity in the workplace.
You're right, we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion,
Yeah.
but age is often left out of the conversation.
And that's a shame because different generations bring such a wealth of knowledge,
Yeah.
experience, and perspectives to the table.
The Harnessing the Power of Age Diversity article really emphasized that point.
It did.
It argued that generational differences can be a source of both conflict and opportunity.
Exactly. And the key to unlocking that opportunity is to move beyond stereotypes.
And recognize the unique strengths that each generation brings to the workplace.
So instead of assuming that younger workers are entitled
Yeah.
or that older workers are resistant to change,
Uh-huh.
we need to approach each individual with curiosity
Yeah.
and a willingness to learn from their experiences.
That's a great point. And the article offers some really practical advice on how to do that,
Okay.
starting with identifying your own assumptions about different generations.
You mean those unconscious biases we all have?
Exactly. Like assuming that all millennials are obsessed with social media
Right.
or that baby boomers are technophobic.
We all have these biases, and it's important to be aware of them so we can challenge them.
Absolutely.
And once you've identified your assumptions,
Yeah.
the next step is to adjust your lens.
Right.
Try to see the world from your colleagues' perspectives,
Ah.
considering their life experiences
Yeah.
and how those experiences might have shaped their views.
It's about practicing empathy and understanding.
Right.
Yeah.
And once you've done that, you can start to leverage those generational differences as strengths.
Exactly.
So instead of seeing them as obstacles,
Yeah.
we can recognize that those different perspectives can lead to more creative solutions
Uh-huh.
and a more dynamic and resilient workplace.
Precisely. Think about it. Older workers often have a wealth of institutional knowledge and experience, while younger workers might be more comfortable with new technologies and ways of working. Host speaker. As we were just talking about, like, the importance of human connection, it made me think about how we often focus on the external aspects of business. Technology markets, strategy.
Right.
But sometimes we forget about that internal landscape.
You mean like the human side of things?
Exactly. The
Okay.
psychology of leadership and teamwork.
And I think that the new CEO, Chief Empathy Officer article really gets at that.
It does. It's not just about being a nice person. It's about understanding the power of empathy and emotional intelligence in leadership.
The article argues that those social skills are becoming even more valuable in today's complex business environment.
And for good reason, think about the challenges that leaders are facing.
Right. Right.
Managing diverse teams, navigating rapid technological advancements,
Yeah.
responding to this constantly shifting social and political landscape.
It's a lot.
It is. It's a lot to handle.
Yeah, and I can see how empathy would be so crucial
Absolutely.
in those situations.
The article points out that empathy allows leaders to connect with their employees on a deeper level,
Okay.
understand their perspectives, and build that trust and rapport.
So it's not just about issuing orders from the top.
Right.
It's about creating a culture where people feel seen, heard, and valued.
Exactly. And that kind of culture is essential for attracting and retaining top talent these days.
Yeah, especially in today's competitive job market.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just about internal relationships, is it?
No, it's not.
Empathy also plays a crucial role in how leaders interact with their customers,
Yeah.
clients, the wider community?
Absolutely. You're right. In an age where consumers are increasingly discerning,
Right.
and purpose-driven empathy is essential for building those authentic connections
Right.
and fostering brand loyalty.
So an empathetic leader is someone who can understand and respond to the needs of their stakeholders, whether they're employees, customers, or investors.
Exactly. And this is even more important in today's world of social media and 247 news coverage,
Right.
where one misstep or insensitive comment can go viral
Yeah.
and damage a company's reputation.
It's like leaders are under a microscope these days.
They are.
They need to be so mindful of how their words and actions are perceived.
Exactly. And that's why emotional intelligence is so crucial.
Okay.
It's the ability to be aware of and manage your own emotions as well as the emotions of others.
It sounds like emotional intelligence is really the foundation for effective leadership in this new world of work.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about being self-aware, empathetic, and skilled at building relationships and navigating all those complex social dynamics.
But the article also raises a really important question.
Yeah.
How do you measure empathy and emotional intelligence?
Right.
It's not like you could just give someone a test and say, you scored a 9 out of 10 on empathy.
It's much more nuanced than that.
Right.
It requires looking at a leader's behavior,
Okay.
their communication style, their decision-making process, and their track record of building trust and rapport with others.
Yeah, I'm curious to know how companies are approaching this challenge.
Okay.
Are they using personality assessments?
Yeah.
Behavioral interviews?
Some companies are
Yeah.
using 360-degree feedback,
Okay.
where leaders receive input from their peers, their direct reports, and even clients or customers.
To get like a more holistic picture
Exactly.
of their strengths and weaknesses.
To get a more well-rounded picture of a leader's emotional intelligence.
Okay. And other companies are incorporating simulations and role-playing exercises into their leadership development programs
Yeah.
to give aspiring leaders a chance to actually practice these skills in a safe environment.
Right.
It sounds like companies are getting much more sophisticated in how they develop and assess leadership potential.
They have to. The old command and control style of leadership just simply isn't effective
Right.
in today's complex and rapidly changing world.
Leaders need a different set of skills that allow them to connect with their teams, build trust, and inspire others to achieve shared goals.
Absolutely. And this brings us to another often overlooked aspect of leadership: managing age diversity in the workplace.
You're right, we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion,
Uh-huh.
but age is often left out of the conversation.
And that's a shame because different generations bring such a wealth of knowledge, experience, and perspectives to the table.
The Harnessing the Power of Age Diversity article really emphasized that point.
It did. It argued that those generational differences can be a source of both conflict and opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the key to unlocking that opportunity is to move beyond stereotypes
Right.
and recognize the unique strengths that each generation brings to the workplace. So instead of assuming that younger workers are entitled or that older workers are resistant to change,
Yeah.
we need to approach each individual with curiosity and a willingness to learn from their experiences.
That's a great point. And the article offers some really practical advice on how to do that.
Okay.
Starting with identifying your own assumptions about different generations.
You mean like those unconscious biases we all have?
Exactly. Like assuming that all millennials are obsessed with social media or that baby boomers are technophobic.
Yeah.
We all have these biases.
Yeah.
And it's important to be aware of them so that we can challenge them.
And once you've identified your assumptions, the next step is to adjust your lens.
Wow.
Try to see the world from your colleagues' perspectives, considering their life experiences and how those experiences might have shaped their views.
Yeah, it's about practicing empathy and understanding.
Right? And once you've done that,
Mhm.
you can start to leverage those generational differences as strengths.
Absolutely.
So instead of seeing them as obstacles, we can recognize that those different perspectives
Yeah.
can lead to more creative solutions
Yeah.
and a more dynamic and resilient workplace.
Precisely. Think about it. Older workers often have a wealth of institutional knowledge and experience, while younger workers might be more comfortable with new technologies and ways of working.
It's a powerful combination,
It is.
and it highlights the importance of creating opportunities for cross-generational collaboration and mentorship.
Absolutely. The article really emphasizes the importance of building those intergenerational networks
Okay.
where people from different generations can learn from each other
Right.
and share their perspectives.
It's a win-win for everyone involved. The younger generation gains valuable insights and guidance from those experienced mentors.
Yeah.
And the older generation gets to stay connected to new ideas and trends.
And the organization as a whole benefits from a more diverse and dynamic workforce.
Speaking of diverse perspectives, it's clear from these articles that the business world is changing at an unprecedented pace.
It is.
From the rise of AI and Web3 to the growing importance of ESG and the evolving expectations of employees, leaders are facing a whole new set of challenges.
And a whole new set of opportunities. It's a time of incredible innovation and disruption.
Right.
But it also requires a different kind of leadership.
Okay.
A leadership that's more human-centered,
Yeah.
more adaptable, and more focused on building a better future for everyone.
So what does this all mean for leaders who are trying to navigate this rapidly changing landscape?
I think it comes down to a few key things. First, embrace continuous learning.
Okay.
The world is changing so fast that what you knew yesterday might be obsolete tomorrow.
So be a lifelong learner.
Uh-huh.
Stay curious.
Yeah.
And be willing to step outside of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Second, cultivate empathy and emotional intelligence. These are essential skills for building strong relationships, navigating complex situations, and inspiring others to achieve those shared goals.
It's about leading with your head and your heart.
Absolutely. And third, embrace diversity in all its forms.
Okay.
Whether it's generational diversity, cultural diversity, or diversity of thought.
Yeah.
Different perspectives can lead to more creative solutions
Right.
and a more vibrant and resilient workplace.
So build diverse teams, foster a culture of inclusion,
Yeah.
and be open to new ideas and new ways of working.
You got it. And finally, don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
Okay.
The old playbooks simply don't work anymore.
Right.
Be willing to experiment, to fail fast, and to learn from your mistakes.
So be bold, be curious, and be adaptable.
That's the recipe for success in this new world of work.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive.
We have.
From the importance of empathy and leadership to the power of age diversity and the need for continuous learning, it's clear that the human element is more important than ever in today's business world.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
One that's been simmering in the back of my mind.
Light on me.
We've talked about the metaverse, live stream commerce, and even the space economy.
Yeah.
All these incredible advancements pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But there's another frontier that we haven't really touched on.
Okay.
Perhaps the most profound one of all.
What is it?
The human mind.
What do you mean?
Think about it. We're on the cusp of incredible breakthroughs in neuroscience and artificial intelligence that have the potential to fundamentally change how we work, learn, and even think.
Wow. You're really taking this deep here.
I am. How will these advancements impact leadership decision-making?
Yeah.
And the very nature of work itself?
Right.
Will we be able to enhance our cognitive abilities, merge our minds with machines, or even create artificial consciousness?
It's both exhilarating and a little bit terrifying to think about the possibilities.
It is, but that's the beauty of living in this time of unprecedented change. We have the opportunity to shape the future, not just react to it.
So what's the takeaway for our listener?
As you continue to explore all these emerging trends and navigate the ever-evolving business landscape, don't forget to look inward
Oh, okay.
as well as outward.
What do you mean?
Invest in your own cognitive development.
Okay.
Cultivate your emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And stay curious about the frontiers of human potential.
Because ultimately the future of business is inextricably linked to the future of the human mind.
Exactly. And that's something to really ponder as we move into the final part of our deep dive.
So we've explored a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
The changing role of managers, the rise of Web3, even ventured into space.
Yeah. But as we've talked about, it always seems to come back to the human element.
You're so right. Even with all this technology and disruption, it's really our ability to adapt, connect, lead with empathy that will determine our success.
And remember where we left off last time. The next frontier might be the human mind itself.
It is a mind-blowing concept.
It is.
How advancements in neuroscience and AI could change the way we work, learn, even think.
It really is. Imagine enhancing our cognitive abilities, merging our minds with machines.
Yeah.
Even creating artificial consciousness. It sounds like science fiction.
It does.
But it's becoming more and more real.
It is exciting.
It is.
But also a little daunting.
It is. There are definitely a lot of ethical and philosophical questions that we need to consider.
So how do we make sure these advancements are used for good,
Yeah.
not for harm?
I think it starts with education and awareness, making sure everyone understands the potential benefits and risks.
So not burying our heads in the sand.
Exactly. We need to be proactive in shaping the future.
Okay.
Engaging in discussions about the ethical implications,
Right.
developing guidelines, regulations.
You make sure that these technologies are used responsibly.
Exactly.
It's a big responsibility, but one we can't ignore.
We can't. But even beyond the ethical considerations,
Yep.
I'm curious how these advancements will impact the future of work.
Yeah, some experts think that AI will automate so many jobs,
Yeah,
lead to widespread unemployment.
that's definitely a possibility. We need to be prepared for that.
It's kind of a dystopian vision of the future robots taking over,
Yeah.
leaving us with nothing to do.
It's a possibility. But other experts believe that AI will actually create new jobs and opportunities,
I'll bet.
allowing us to focus on tasks that require creativity,
Hmm.
critical thinking, emotional intelligence.
So instead of competing with machines, we're collaborating,
Exactly.
leveraging their strengths.
That's right. I think that's a more optimistic vision
It is.
and probably a more realistic one.
Yeah. But even in a world where AI is augmenting our abilities, we still need strong leadership.
We do.
People who can set a vision, inspire, navigate.
Absolutely. And those leaders will need that unique blend of skills.
Okay.
Tech savvy, but also human-centered with strong emotional intelligence.
So finding that balance between the technical and the human, the head and the heart.
That brings us back to the theme of our deep dive, adaptability.
Yeah.
The world's changing faster than ever.
It is.
The only way to thrive is to embrace change, challenge assumptions,
Yeah.
continuously learn, evolve,
Agile, resilient,
Yeah.
always looking for opportunities to grow.
and never forgetting the human element.
Right.
Our relationships, our values, our shared humanity. That's what will guide us.
I love that. What a powerful message to end on.
It is.
Feeling inspired and energized by all the possibilities.
Do.
Thanks for being such a fantastic guide on this journey.
My pleasure.
I can't wait for the next deep dive.
Until next time.